Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we
Try
are
not to get
reviewing
yourself
a
killed out
Silver
there.
Soldier 76. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps me out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below to see what the rates look like and that stuff. But for now, let's take a look at this soldier's gameplay.
Soon we will see if the hypotheses are correct.
Movement feels a little awkward. This might be console. Maybe not. Might have just been hand off the mouse while setting up. Okay, so you don't really want to open like this. Like, I know you think you've checked and, oh, I didn't see a Widow here, so it's probably safe, but this isn't really a great place to start. This isn't really amazing. Like, a Reinhardt can go up here for a Fire Strike, because even if they take a 300 damage headshot, they can then put their shield up and get out. Just because you see Reinhardts do this doesn't mean you want to do this. You need to pay these spawn doors more respect until you actually know that 6 people have come out and there's not a Widow here. This spawn is just too powerful if this is a Widow, a Hanzo, etc. Yeah, that's probably true, Helix. I saw for a moment there and I think you're right. This does look like it is PC based on that. Okay. You're reloading, please get behind real cover. You should not trust your teammates' soft cover, those barriers, as permanent things. So if they happen to help you out while you're in an otherwise safe place, great, but you don't trust that as something real. So get behind the cover. No, don't go back out here. Now you're not going to get away from this hole. See, and you just were like, oh, I'm so glad that my hog who had this fat belly was able to take the shots that were probably meant for me there. That's really nice, because I might be in trouble otherwise. Okay, your healing station isn't really for maintaining this position. Again, this isn't really a good choke to actually enforce. It's not particularly amazing. It can be okay. It's not particularly amazing. You generally will see as you get better at the game that people are playing either more around this or playing more around statue. And they might enforce this choke from the opposite sides of statue, but they're not really going to play up here to try to enforce this choke. And you, as I just alluded to, how you sort of control opposite sides of statue, want to end up in situations you don't go for this opening Helix rocket, too high risk and too low reward, but also means that you're not in positions that you actually want when the match starts, which is positions like this, where you can go, hey, I contribute, I make that choke hard to go through. If they try to push through to go into my team, I get to drill them from here and do good damage. I have this nice off angle. This is the type of thing you want. This is a little more passive, and you still need to make sure that nothing snipes you, Widow, Hanzo, Ashe, etc. from there, but once they're up through the choke, you can go here, you can shoot them from here. This is also better. This is not very good. Soldier is not a I play with my team hero. His healing station might seem to mislead you on that because it's like, oh, it does group healing, it's to heal my team, etc. It is exceedingly rare that you use his healing station like that. Every once in a while, yes, but the primary use for his healing station is actually to help him sustain off angles like this, so he can stay here. So he can stay here without a support explicitly paying attention to him, without Mercy gluing herself to him, without a Harmony or being stuck on him. He can maintain off angles on his own. And he's also got Sprint to help him take those off angles really quickly. Or if he gets jumped, to run away and perhaps rejoin his team if divers come after him. That's what his kit is designed for. His kit is not designed for, I'm going to throw the healing station down to heal my team, and I'm just going to pepper the enemy from my team. Totally get why it might seem that way with how healing stations is designed, but it's really not what he's looking to do.
Come here, get stabilized. Barrier's about to break my chain.
Not really how we want to use Helix, but okay. Okay, this is getting a little better. Your Hanzo's got control of this. I actually liked that your Hanzo and Sigma had control of this, and I was perfectly happy with you and Hog having control of this. Now we're drifting into better positioning, and you being over here, well, they're over here is great. You might be thinking, I want to be over here so that I have this barrier, but I don't care about this barrier. What you want is you want the opponents as a whole to go, we're distracted by the Hanzo and Sigma shooting over here, and we're distracted by the Hog, we'll pretend Moira's further away, and the Soldier over there, and we don't know who to look at. So maybe we'll split the difference, and some of us will look that way and some of us will look that way. Well, if some of them are looking this way and some of them are looking that way, damage is less likely to combine to actually get them elimination. So that's good for you. Whereas if they're like this and you guys are going, but we have our barrier, so all 6 of us are going to shoot you from behind the barrier, that's not as good. They will just shred the barrier very, very quickly. A 700 HP barrier of that size is nothing. That will get destroyed basically immediately. It's not nearly as scary to them as you guys shooting from multiple directions. We talked about how poke combines, and it gets split like this. But also, if they're looking over here, their evasive movement is like this, which means it's not like this. And what you notice if you move like this is that doesn't really change my shooting profile on you from here or from here if I'm soldier and you're moving like this to be evasive to these guys. It's also, they're not paying attention to you. They're paying attention to this, or they're paying attention to this, then you're not paying attention to your friends. And finally, cover that works and is like, aha, yep, I have cover against Hanzo. Wait, I'm still being shot by soldier. That's a problem. Right now, this cover works against both of you. You don't like that. You wanted to be split. You wanted to be, hey, we're over here. That's how you get better. You want to play this game as a game of angles. In Overwatch, the team with more and greater angles tends to win. Much more so than the team that's hiding behind the barrier better. Okay, there's a Pharah there. Probably would have sprinted a little more, moved a little more distance-wise with the sprint rather than just stay here for the healing station, but this is okay. Please look up for the Pharah. Please look up for the Pharah. No, you can't do this. You can't just go, I hope this thing that is bothering me, be it a flanker, be it someone shooting from a different angle, will leave me alone, and I can just keep shooting at the other team. You can't do that. You will lose games like that. You have to shoot at the thing that is bothering you to make them go away. This applies when you're playing hit scan. This applies when you're playing support. Those are the 2 people who I find most often do that. As a main tank, you actually can sometimes ignore things that are bothering you. In fact, sometimes you're required to ignore things that are bothering you and leave it to your team to peel them. But as a hit scan and as a support, you absolutely cannot just go, it's bothering me, I don't like it, I'm going to keep trying to contribute maximum value to shooting at the core of the enemy team. No, you have to turn and deal with the flank on you, or you have to look up and keep honest the Pharah, the Echo, whatever that is shooting at you there. They're not going to leave you alone if you don't. And you got on her there, but it's so long. She'd fired 4 or 5 rockets at you already. Right idea. Okay, so you were trying for it. There's a certain timing for that. You actually want to aim a little bit higher with that Helix rocket when you're going for it. You want to hit not the center of her mech. Here, we'll go over it. You clearly know that it exists and you're just trying to get it, which is good. You actually do want to aim a little bit higher. You want to aim more at the top of the mech. We treat it like she's coming at the top of the mech, not the front of the mech, because really she is. So this is more where you want to hit with your Helix rocket. And you're clearly trying for the timing and you just don't quite have it yet. Yeah, see? This right here. She comes at the top of the mech. This is what you're trying to hit. So just, kind of shoot the top of the mech, literally the top hatch there effectively, and you're going to find that that's how you get her. But right idea. Oh, you did try to shoot the top. My bad. I saw the wrong thing. You were just late on it. That's okay.
This was the expected.
Okay. It's going to be real tough for you to fight your way back in here. I really would have preferred that you put this healing station here. If you put this healing station here, you can go, hey, I'm standing up here and contributing to this fight, or you can back up to here and still get healed by it with full cover. So a little more aggressive with this healing station so that it can support you trying to fight your way back into this, and it can support you going full cover defensively. The Pharah. Don't shoot at the barrier. I know the barrier feels rewarding because it's I'm providing value, but the rewarding thing to do right now is to shoot at this Pharah right now. She's at the sharpest angle separated from her team. Remember how I talked about how I wanted you off-angling from her team? Well, Pharah naturally off-angles by flying, and you you basically get to do more damage to the other team when you're off-angling. It compromises their cover, their barriers. It makes it so they're not evading your shots the same way. They're not paying attention to you, so relative to you, they're basically standing still. It's great. But you don't want off-angling people to exist. You want to either eliminate them or you want to pressure them with damage so they go back to their team to get heals, support, that kind of thing, and then they do less damage to you. So you don't want to shoot at this barrier right now. You want to shoot at this Pharah because she's the biggest off-angling target that is accessible to you. And because she's Pharah, you're pretty much the only one who can. Are you the only one who can on this team? Not really. Just kind of.
I've got you in my sights.
Okay. And again, you see how this is going, and your heal station, which is now evaporated, was back here. Wouldn't it have been nice to have this supporting your aggressive play up here at the same time?
Double, triple kill.
I'm on fire.
Okay. Don't need to hold down the button when there's nothing on your screen, but hey. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to hide the healing station. They can't destroy it. Okay, so I get it, but you actually wanted to use your downtime to go take an off angle. You wanted to use your downtime to go hut two, and take up here, or take up here. You wanted to go do that and not work your way back up here. Because you had downtime between pushes, and if there weren't staggers to be had, you want to take that time to take good positioning. Don't do it. Don't do it. You should not expect Hog to peek for you right now. It's weird that he is. So, like, you can sort of use Hog's body as a wall sometimes, but I wouldn't expect Hog to peek right now because he just used his hook. So he has much less incentive to peek right now, so I don't know why you were peeking. I don't know why either of you are peeking. Okay, you're purple. Please stop. Please leave. Please leave. No, we don't want this. We don't want this. Go take an angle. Go run yourself up here. You'll do perfectly fine from here. And look, this Pharah will be so much more accessible to you. This Pharah will be so much more accessible to you. You're just standing. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Got the Pharah, good stuff. Still want you to change your positioning. Don't want you pushing in front of your Hog here. So here you are. And this positioning in general is wrong, but even if your Hog is pulling this in for you, your Hog clearly connected. He's clearly going to pull it in. You're fine. You can shoot it from here. You can shoot it from here even better, but there's absolutely no reason for you to walk through your Hog to shoot at this D.Va. You're a squishy 200 HP hero. Bunch of damage that was probably going to get shot at your Hog, who forced himself to stand still by hooking someone, is now potentially going to hit you instead. It's going to go right through the D.Va and hit you instead of your Hog. That's bad. You don't want that. You wanted to be angled differently than your Hog, and you definitely didn't want to be in front of your Hog if you were going to shoot from the same angle as your Hog. Why are we healing stationing? We don't want this. We're missing 11 health, and this healing station doesn't let us get aggressive. Like, a healing station over here would at least extend out to here, so we could stand here to get healed with covered, or we could stand here and have it do that, but we don't really want to do either of these. We want our healing station to help us to sustain an off angle. Shoot the Pharah, not the Mercy in this situation. It doesn't have to be an always true thing, but when the Mercy's Valking, you just do not expect to be able to take her down through the insane healing that she gets and the insane mobility.
This is not your time.
Taking either of them down in that situation is going to be hard, but...
I'm not a young man anymore.
Justice reigns from above. Objective lost. Stop the pain.
Okay. Your team wasn't really ready yet. Cool. Okay. Are you immediately going to veer? Please don't chase her out. She will have a rocket for your face if you chase her out without healing. Oh, you tried to bait her. Okay. Yeah, that's about right. So again, we didn't really want to stand here and fight. Like, this is a little bit of an off angle, but we don't really like it because they're like all looking in this direction. They haven't really rounded the corner to fight our team yet. We want to be at a different angle than our team, but we don't want to be at the main angle that they're looking down. We wanted to run up these stairs. Maybe we see Pharah up here and catch her unawares. Maybe we'll eliminate her. Maybe she's already over here and that's not the case. But even so, we now have this where we've got a little bit of high ground to help us with this angle. And we can shoot them in the head more easily, and they'll have rounded this corner a little more like they have now, so they'll be paying attention to our team. Maybe they'll then flick over and start looking at us, in which case we can just sprint back and crouch. But that's fine, because if they're looking at us, they're not looking at our team. So our team is just beaning them with, Sigma pebbles and Roadhog right clicks, etc. And that's great. And they're not hurting us because we ran back when they started paying attention to us. And then so they go, okay, well, we can't see Soldier anymore, so we turn back. And then you just run right back forward, uncrouch, and shoot them in the head again. It's amazing.
This old dog's learned a few tricks. My ultimate is ready.
Okay.
Victory.
Okay, so are you going to shoot at the Pharah or no?
I've got you in
No,
my sights.
no. So we don't want a visor right now because there's an incredibly easy shot available to us in this Pharah. And we know where this Pharah is. We heard her. We can see her shower of missiles. We know exactly where she is. So we want to open this as soon as possible if we don't think the barrage is already coming at us and it doesn't look like it is. And just go headshot, headshot, headshot. She's standing still. She can't move herself. She's almost completely rooted where she is. So we can just peek and do headshots at her. And that's actually faster because it doesn't take us time to activate our visor before we can start doing that. And we can actually get headshots with our regular thing. We can't do that with the visor. We will take her down faster if we don't use the visor here, and we don't need the visor's help to take her down. And even if you're like, but I'm not sure I'm going to hit headshots on her, even if she's rooted like that, that's fine. You still probably can get some. You don't have to aim at her head directly. You can aim at like her chin, her neck, her upper portion of her upper torso. But even if you're just like, I'm just going to shoot at her regularly, it's still faster than having spent time to activate your ult. And you don't need your ult for it. You'd rather have your ult for after she's gone to help clean up the rest of the fight against these targets that'll be harder to hit. See what I'm saying? Okay. Like, your ult does not increase your damage except by increasing your accuracy. And you don't need the accuracy increase against a target that can't move. Helixer, yes. Great. Reload. Reload before you open. Good. Okay. Run up left. Run up left. No, so close. So close. This is what you want to do. You want to use your sprint to go up here. This is definitely what you wanted to do. It would have been more threatening. You'd have gotten here and they'd have been in this situation where it's like, whoa, suddenly we're being shot from here and here as they're retreating. It also would have been faster to get you to a place where you can do damage. Okay. Turn. You can hear him. Even if you don't find his tire, you're definitely going to find him. Don't run away from this. Eliminate the Junkrat. You have sound cues. Turn up. The Pharah's here. You gotta move. You gotta use shift. You've probably almost got. You have to drop, use shift, and get in here and try to get out. Like, because now that you've taken this, you're in trouble. Oh boy. Yeah. Got to be a little faster at recognizing when this Pharah is paying attention to you. Really got to be a little faster at watching for this Pharah in general, but in particular when she's on you, she's getting to fire a few too many rockets before you react. React by either taking better positioning or turning and shooting her. Both of those are reactions.
This is not your time.
Okay. Good. Leave. Good. Reloading during the DM, fine. You actually want to be working yourself in. Like, as you were getting back here, this was fine. And then you go, okay, I'm done. You don't go back here. You hit the sprint button and you get yourself up here and you play from here, or maybe you deepen it to here, or maybe you even deepen it to here. That's how you want to be thinking about this. You want to have your off angles, you want to have your slight high ground. Both of those are good for you, and it would have cost you very little time to get that, and it would have been more threatening. Your whole team is threatening in basically the same direction. If you were threatening from over here or even over here, that would be way, way more scary to this team. They would be like, oh, shoot, our Orisa barrier does no good to this guy over here, or our Orisa barrier does less good to this guy over here, or hey, we're shooting at these guys, trying to break their barriers, trying to melt them down, and we're getting pelted. So let's turn and shoot at these guys, and then these guys are shooting at us. And even if it's some of them turn here and some of them turn here, we've already talked about how that means the damage combines in less obvious ways. You can drop your heal station here and be like, I can shoot you, I'm getting healed, I take too much, I'm buying cover, getting healed still, I can go back and get my mega, I can contest anyone that tries to come through here to take the angle on us. There isn't going to be a situation where like their Reaper sneaks up here and drops and just blossoms here, because you're going to see and hear him early and be able to shoot him a little, sprint away, shoot him a little more, make sure he doesn't get in. Like, these are good things to do. Reaper understands the power of angles. Fortunately, you spotted him quickly, but see how everyone is turned? And by everyone, I mean you, Hog, and Sigma, and by the and Moira, and effectively Mercy, because she's boosting one of you that are looking this way. Everyone is turned to deal with this Reaper. Now, this Reaper's aggression was timed wrong, so everyone could afford to turn and deal with this Reaper. But if these guys had still been here, if this Reaper had come in when these guys were still here, and all of you turned like this, you'd just get wiped out. And if you hadn't all turned like this Reaper might not have had to leave. We want you to do the same thing. Now Torb's doing it, so you don't have to. But now, your new spot would become, can I get up here and control this? But enough of that. Good job. Why are you pushing in front of your team? This barrier is fake. It's not real. Oh boy. Oh boy. This was not a good place to wander out to. This was too deep of a pursue. I get that you wanted the stagger, but it's too deep of a pursue. This is their spawn because they already capped second, which means you were always very likely to get shot from this direction. We don't like that. And it's too hard for you to get back here. You're going to, but a part of why you're going to is because, you know, you have a coalescence going. That's an ult. We don't like having to spend those. You're at full health. What are you dropping this? What are you dropping this healing station for?
Heal up here.
It's sort of cool that this healing station does what I want. If, hey, you've got an aggressive sort of spot to use it and a defensive spot to use it, but you were at full health. You didn't need this. And now your healing station's over when you want it. Ugh. Again, between fights, you go take angles like this one. Imagine what you could do from here. Imagine what you could do from here. You're too much at the front line.
I've got you in my sights.
Okay, did your team call that they're hard pushing? I suppose, if you got the belt going.
Everyone, heal up.
Generally, you want to use your visors a little bit... You either want to use visors when people are separated a ton and not near cover, or a little later into fights once resources have gone out. Orisa shields, breathers, defense matrices, amp speed. You want some... Wraith forms. You want some of these things off the board so that your visor can actually get eliminations. That doesn't mean you visor into a 3v6, but you let the fight evolve a little bit so that there's more ability to get things done. You wait until a barrier just broke from Orisa before you pop that visor. Good! Look how powerful this is. Off angle, off angle. See, I don't even care that you didn't get eliminations. That was good pressure on them. That was good pressure, and if your team had been wanting to, they'd have been fine here. You guys did get nano out of them, and now you have this going, and if you realized you had this going, you probably wouldn't have left. You'd have probably backed out a little and then come right back in and done more work while this flux was going. And remember, you have heal station. That lets you sustain these angles. You can maintain your ability to use this, as opposed to having to rejoin your team every time. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Close the angle. You're good. Wait, don't run back. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait. You can literally just wait like 1 second, or because of where she is, you might wait 2 or 3 seconds, and then reopen the angle and peek again. She's going to hold this for a second or two because there's nothing better for her to do as she walks forward to get here, but you just have to mentally calculate how long it's going to take her to get here where she wants to pay attention to this again, and then you peek again, open with a Helix into her because she's looking this way, headshot her, and she's gone. You don't spend all this time running back to your team. You don't need to.
60 seconds.
Leave, leave. You don't want to be in front like this. If you're in front down main, if you're in front of your tanks down main, you're doing it wrong. If you're in front of your tanks because you're on some sort of angle, so like relative to the enemy, you end up in front of them, that can be okay if your opponents have their primary attention this way, but you don't want to, on main, where the opponents are naturally looking, be in front of your tanks nearly as often as you are. Soul drop angles are kind of OP in silver because people can't aim well enough to beat the angles a lot of the time. Soul drop angles are kind of OP, period. Why? Why did you not grab the mini?
I've got you in
No. Why would you pop your visor here as opposed to accepting that these guys are like, you already have lava going. You're already up 3 in this fight. You don't need to pop this. You don't need to pop visor at all. Just hold it. Just hold your ult for the next fight. There's still one more fight. They're going to get to cart. Their spawn is very close to cart. Okay. Fortunately, they're feeding. So you got value, so now they're not going to get a real fight. They're going to get a stagger fest. Sprint away from it. You know where she's coming through. Good. Okay. Nice job. Do they have any ults that can punish you for stacking like this? I suppose not. Supercharger. Aim at her feet by the supercharger because she's already fortifying, so you can't get headshot damage. And you would very much like that to go away. Run. Right idea. Except that the Ashe is there, so you can immediately close the angle. You do not need to fight her. You can close the angle. She can't make it to cart. Fine. Okay. By running through enemy shields at the whole team and somehow not getting eliminated.
Ready for battle.
Given the enemy comp is the main use of visor here to zone out Pharah or Valk Mercy, you could. I think in silver, you can eliminate the Valking Mercy pretty reliably. You wait until she Valks into a poor position, and then you visor and punish her for it. You can also, like, that's a reasonable way to use it. Yes, I think what I already described of you can wait until you see a barrier is broken, so Orissa's very unlikely to have her next one yet. You can wait until we saw that take a breather or speed amp, or you can wait until you see a few critical cooldowns used, and then you can visor. Preferably, you can visor from an off angle. Like, those are fine, and preferably then your visor will get some eliminations. Even if it doesn't, it should leave them very exhausted, and your team should be able to fight them, but you want to be visoring from a different angle so that they are exhausted and your team can easily follow up. You don't want to visor into the fight that you've already won, and you don't want to just visor into a bunch of shields. You want to, against Orisa, wait until those shields are broken in most situations. I wouldn't specifically hold it to zone out the fair or to counter the Valk, though.
It is time to act.
Ready for battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Okay, so we talked about off angles before and how you have sprint, and we don't want you to use sprint to get ahead of your team. We want you to use sprint to go up over here, and then what do you know? You have an off angle, and you can threaten this off angle to help break this choke if they try to hold it close like you did. And if they don't try to hold it close and your team can get through to statue for free, then you just get to drop and transition up to here, and then you have this wonderful off angle to support from as your team is trying to break in, etc. That's how you do this. Nope. Nope. We are not taking a shield battle. We are not going, I'm going to hide behind my shifting Sigma to shoot at their shield, and we will line up and shoot at each other's shields and be like, yes, we are gentlemen, and this is how we fight. That is not how we fight. We jump out from the trees. We find you from the bushes. We sneak up behind you and do headshots in the back. We get above you. We take any dirty trick advantage we can get. We don't want this organized, civil, let's stand behind our tanks and shoot at each other nonsense. Nor do we go, yes, I shall be the good soldier and heal my team. No. We have supports for that shenanigans, and they have walls to hide behind if they're taking too much damage. I am using my healing station to help me sustain my off angle, so that I accept that, hey, my Mercy's going to struggle to get up here to heal me. Maybe my Mercy's paying attention to other people. Great. Or do you have a Mercy anymore? You don't. So my Moira's not going to be able to heal me because I'm on an off angle. Great. That's fine. I have my own healing station for that. So my Moira can keep paying attention to the tanks.
The war goes on.
Okay. Can you break the turret? Please? Fine. Can you just... Okay, fine. I don't need you to do this. Why don't we like the healing station? Or not the healing station, the health pack. Get the health pack of this sprint through here. You're missing enough health to justify it. If you really want to go, hey, I'm going to shoot these turret through the tree here instead of from back here, I'm okay with that, but please get this on your way. Almost.
Come here and get stabilized.
You have Helix. You can punish this. Too late. Yeah, so you actually had a good moment to hit your Helix on her. Her movement is going to be worse, like, during the res is really when you wanted to hit her with it. When she can't really move is when you would optimally hit her with the Helix, and you just wait too long before you do it here. Usually a Helix to finish people off is correct, but she's obviously slower when she's rezzing. This is conceptually a good idea. You're playing the off angle. I really would have liked the turret to be eliminated, and I'd like you to be playing a little tighter on the door like Hanzo is, but this is a good idea. Good. And now you've understand that Fair is in here, and if you're not going to fight her, you're going to need to get yourself out here or something. This is going to be dicey. Really, you guys just aggressed when your team didn't have enough control, but that's okay.
No rest
Is the
for
sign
the
on the
weary.
left? The vertical letters shoot through a bowl where there is a mini. Oh, here? I don't remember, honestly. I think this is a physical object, but it might just be lights. I think this is a physical object. I don't remember, sorry. Yeah, that's fair enough. Ana is a lot of fun. Ana is a lot of fun to play. Okay, Helix and headshots. There you go, your aim's fine. You didn't need to try to visor for that earlier. I don't necessarily like how hard you're focusing that hog when other easier targets were available that would have gone down a lot faster. Oh boy.
Got you in my sights.
Okay. Turn left. Don't pump bullets into the shield and the fortified Orisa. Deal with the free target over here.
Target reaching my. I'm on fire.
That got him. Okay. That Pharah, again, you're not paying attention to that Pharah for extended periods of time. Like, you don't seem to be aware when you're getting shot at from different directions. Or maybe it's a specifically you're trying to ignore the Pharah because if you pay attention to her, you'll have to shoot at her and you don't want to do that. Or maybe it's just you don't notice when you're getting threatened, shot at from different directions, in which case that generally needs to be paid attention to. Watch the hit markers to see which direction the red splatter on your screen is coming from. Like, oh, I'm taking damage, like this. Okay, like it doesn't look like this. This is because you're actually eliminated. But you can pay attention to that. You can pay attention to the sound effects better to tell where they're coming from. And if you can't tell from the sound effects, that's almost certainly an issue of you not using headphones that give you directional sound or something like that, in which case you definitely should. The sound effects in Overwatch are really, really informative. Okay.
Grow up with me.
Still don't want to frontline. It's too long. I don't care if your reaction to the Pharah is I immediately turn and start trying to shoot at her. If it's I sprint to try to get to a place where I can shoot at her better from. I sprint even just if it's evasively for a couple meters just to make her miss a shot or two so that then I fight her when she's got half a clip and she has a low chance of fighting me. Like, there's multiple things you could do that I might coach you to, hey, this is better or that is better. But the reality is you're not doing any of them. You're just too slow before hitting any of your appropriate reactions here. It's got to be faster.
Team, heal up here.
The heal station cancels your reload. Okay.
Heal up here.
Why do you now understand off angles? Why in the second half of this game have you been understanding off angles so much better than the beginning of the game? Okay. Please shoot at the Pharah, not the Velking Mercy. You are not good. Turn left.
Payload secured. Move out.
I'd have preferred you closed harder on cover there while you waited.
Got you in my
Why?
sights.
You've hard won this fight. You have hard won this fight. They are down 3 people. Just got 2 of them very recently. No, we don't need to use Visor right now. At all. Save Visor for next fight.
I love the smell of pulsing machines.
Please don't stand in the open. Please go take the high ground. Please go take the high ground. They're gifting it to you. Go take this high ground and just be like, yep, I'm not letting you guys back in. Almost. That's almost the high ground. Yeah, I knew that was coming. You reacted at a reasonable speed there, at least. You should have known she was coming, but you reacted at a reasonable speed. Look up, look up. Okay. It was nice of them to let you have that checkpoint. That's probably the game that they just let you have that checkpoint. The fair, good! I don't love how much you're wandering into the open to fight her, and this isn't the first time you've done that. I don't like that you're drifting right all this way to fight her, because that's putting you in the line of sight of these guys, and you can't afford to pay attention to these guys. So you'd prefer to actually be playing it tighter on this corner. Now, you can't actually play it around this corner, because you do need to be able to shoot her, but I'd prefer to play tighter on this corner, where you have the option of closing if you start taking damage from this direction. Instead, you're putting yourself wider into the open. And now you just need to run. You're not going to forget this reload. You just need to run. You're not going to beat her with the mercy and the beat. Yeah.
Justice reigns from above.
Okay, medal ranks play like 1700s American presidents. No, the American presidents didn't actually. That was kind of the thing between the, I mean, I'm sure some level of it is propaganda that they teach in American schools because, I went through the American school system and they're of course going to be a little like that, but like they teach it in this way in the American schools, or at least they used to, like, yes, the British fought, and before that all of Europe fought in the old world with the two sides line up and they shoot each other, and it was President Washington who modernized it and went, yes, no, now we're going to hide in the trees and fight like dirty scoundrels and do this instead of lining it up. So, like, I haven't done all the research to figure out, is that accurate? Is that actually how it went down? Did General Washington make that change and go do that? Or maybe he wasn't a general at the time? Or was this, some wars were fought like this? Where was, how true is that really versus, painting things with a look how smart we are type thing? I don't know. Maybe someone else has really dug into that and has a better answer. But yes, I think calling that early American presidents, I think that is wrong, and it would actually be because America's first president was at least credited in American history as having modernized for the time warfare like that. So that wouldn't be early American presidents. I don't remember if it was one of the presidents. Was that Madison? Or if it was a Supreme Court justice? There was a great case about like a court justice, and then maybe a state politician of some sort who like got into an honor duel, and like both of their bodyguards just sat there and watched, because it's like, oh no, this is an honor duel type thing. There's some funny stuff if you go back in history like that. I think they took it all from the British. Definitely not biased history, by the way. Okay. Good. Again, your soldier, you could go take this off angle. You could go take this off angle. This would help break this. It's much, much easier to break these things if you're pressuring them from multiple directions than from one direction. Like, can you imagine how much harder this Fair's life would be? She could not play up here like she was if you were threatening from here. She simply could not do it. She might come chase you, but she's not going to chase you even with her mercy into here. She's not very likely to anyways. So like, you relieve a lot of pressure just by existing here. You make them back up from holding here and here and here to back up to holding here or maybe even here. And holding here isn't good enough with where the card is. If they back up to here, your team gets all the way to here for free. And you can do a ton to make that happen just by taking this or this. So is it worth taking 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds because you have sprint faster than other heroes could do it to do that? Absolutely. Way easier than trying to brute force your way through this. This is not how we use Young Station.
Everyone, heal up. Back in my day, we'd have this tailor.
I'm under attack.
Knock me down and I'll keep getting back up.
Get into position.
Cease your resistance.
I've got you in my sights.
Okay. Okay, let's be serious for a moment here. We're just going to keep trying to run this down main, brute forcing it.
Get it.
Imagine if instead of going this way, we went this way and pulled out a visor. Can you imagine how defeated they would be if we did that?
Cease your resistance.
I've got you
Okay.
in my sights.
So, in some ways, yes, we broke a barrier. This would be a good time to pop visor. But there's 2 reasons I don't want you to pop visor right now. 3 reasons. A, you're down, people. I don't love that. They're down someone. That person will take longer to come back, but you're down, people. We don't necessarily want to. We might rather just take a better fight. B, they still have supercharger going, and your visor is not going to make your poke phase better. Your visor doesn't really increase your damage except by increasing your accuracy, which can increase your total damage. Their supercharger actually increases their damage meaningfully. So it's not like you visoring evens out the poke pressure. The poke pressure from them is still way better than the poke pressure from you guys. And C, even though you broke the barrier, they have a ton of cover. A ton of cover that they can hide behind, and you're not doing squat to compromise it. This is what I'm talking about angles being so powerful. Your angle sucks. It does. Your Junkrat is firing from the same angle. He can bounce shots a little bit, but he's firing from the same angle. Your Reinhardt's on a little bit of a different angle, but imagine how much better this visor would be from up here. All that cover that we talked about that is protecting them from your visor down here, protecting them from your Junkrat, protecting them from your Moira, most of that is heavily compromised by you being up here, or heavily compromised by you being up here. And might they adjust? Yeah. But like, if they adjust up to here, which gives them cover against you, your team can see them. If they adjust on top of the cart, your team can see them. If they run up here, very easy for your team to adjust to see them. Are there still places that they can run, like back here, to be like, nah, we're safe from both? Yeah, there are, but by running to here, they let your team advance more. So, like, yes, it doesn't compromise all of their cover, but it compromises some of their cover. That's why we want to play with angles, and we want to use our visor on an angle. On an angle. On an angle. If they beat, you're in front of your team. You should realize there's something wrong with this. You should realize there's something wrong with this. What should the target prioritization be like in this fight? What he can hit. Like, honestly, the problem right now is he's not in a place where he has any targets. So it's like, what target should he prioritize? I don't know. Whichever target isn't hidden by the payload, or this wall, or this wall, or this pillar. There's not very many choices for him to pick from at any given time. Like, his target prioritization should be forget target prioritization. I need a new angle. I need a new angle. That's what his target prioritization should be. But if he has to pick from his target prioritization standpoint, what he would generally do is he's going to go, hey, I'm interested in the person who has taken an angle that makes them most dangerous to me. So if, like, the opposing Reaper goes way out here, I'm going to shoot at the Reaper because the Reaper has gotten closer to us, is in a more aggressive angle. I'm going to shoot him until he either gets eliminated or goes back. If what else is on the other team? If the Pharah comes out and is up here, he's going to shoot the Pharah to make her go away. But if the Pharah is playing way back here and the Reaper is here, we're going to shoot at the Reaper. If the Reaper is over here and the Pharah is way up here, we're going to shoot at the Pharah. If the Reaper and Pharah are way back here and the Orisa is walking into us, yeah, we're probably going to shoot at the Orisa. You see what I'm saying? He's going to take who's available, but he's also going to take who's taking the most aggressive angle to make them go back or to get them eliminated. It's not really about a target prioritization. It's not like, oh, I have to take apart their Mercy to take apart their Reaper, to take apart their Roadhog, to take apart their Lucio. That's not how you need to unlock this. Almost any elimination will do it, but you're going to go for who's the most accessible without putting yourself in more danger to do it. You're not going to go, I'm going to chase all the way back here to get this Mercy elimination or to get this Fair elimination. Forget that. You're just going to take who's there until you grind this fight down a bit more. The enemies. That's usually all that my brain thinks about. Yeah, target prioritization isn't all that important. Like, it matters. It especially matters when you get into dive comps and such, but you're mostly going, who is punish the enemy. Your target prioritization, especially when you're playing a poke hero like Soldier, should generally be who's playing the most aggressive on the enemy team. Let me either eliminate them or make them leave. Because if they're doing aggressive, if they're playing aggressive, they're going to do more damage. So they're who I want to shoot at. And if they're playing more aggressive, they're less likely to get back to safety in time. Good? Great, and that should do it. Don't mind the permanent fire strike that's giving Mercy wings there. Okay. If you guys are enjoying the content, please, let me actually do this in a different order. So, there we go. Maybe that is fine. We'll deal with this. Okay. If you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them up in chat now. Meanwhile, for this player, the things that I want you to work on specifically, and I want you to do these one, then the next, etc. I don't want you to do them all at once. The first thing I want you to work on is I want you more consistently taking angles. You had windows where you were taking angles, and those were good, and you got work done during those. But you were too quick to give up those angles a lot of the time when you took them. You can just wait behind cover for a moment and then go, a second and a half, 2 seconds, and then re-peek, and you're going to be totally fine in most cases, as long as you do it when your team is threatening from a different angle. You can't just re-peek an angle repeatedly when your team isn't also threatening, but you can play to take angles more often, keep those angles more often. That's going to be your first thing. It's intermittent for you right now. If you make it more consistent, you will be a better soldier. You could have unlocked this point significantly faster than you did, and by this point, I mean the final cap that won the game. You could have unlocked this significantly faster if you'd played different angles. It would have forced the enemies back because you were more threatening, which would have let your team get in more, which would have let you as a team have had more and better shots to actually do this. It wouldn't have been as challenging of a rotation for your team. So that's going to be the thing. And we saw plenty of that the other direction, where you could have made this way easier if you'd been holding on the high ground, if you'd gone for the high ground, all that stuff. So more consistently take your angles. That's absolutely critical. Consistently take your angles. Don't just immediately give up your angles at the first sign of, an Ashe shot in this direction. You can just wait a second and then re-peek if your team is threatening. That's the first thing. Once you've spent like 5, 15 games, whatever it takes, it differs from person to person, to get that mentally fixed in your head, and you'll probably play worse while you're focusing on that because it takes up some of your brain power, but that's fine. Then you move on to your next thing. And once you move on to the next thing and find that you don't get worse at taking angles, you find your angles mostly stay the same, only get a little bit worse because you're not thinking about them, that means you were in fact ready to move on. If you move on and you get worse at your angles, go back to your angles. If you only get a little worse, that's fine, you move on. And the next thing you need to do is you need to just really be focusing on, hey, let me watch my hit markers for where I'm taking damage from. Let me make sure I'm listening to tell where incoming threats are coming from, because you are not reacting fast enough to opponents. And while we can't just make your reaction time better, you in some ways are limited to the reaction time you have. You can do some things to help: better sleep, better exercise, consistent sleeping schedule, better diet. There's things like that that we can do to help a little bit. But the real thing that you're doing is anticipation. You're doing, hey, I'm expecting that I'm going to take damage. I'm specifically learning. I'm specifically focusing on watching for these damage hit markers, on listening for stuff. And if you actively sort of look for this stuff, then you will find it actually gets easier for you to react to. It becomes less of a pure reaction test, and because I can react faster because I'd narrowed this down in my mind as one of the things that could happen. I'd sort of already been planning for this to a degree. So put some focus on, I want to make sure I'm turning to deal with enemies that show up on me, be they fair rockets, be they whatever, faster. And if you make that a thing, you're not going to make like, oh, my reactions are just perfect, etc. But you can make yourself a fair bit faster. You can just by specifically working on it. And then even once you stop specifically working on it, yeah, you'll get a little worse, but you won't get completely worse. It's sort of like, divas and eating defense matrix and eating stuff. Like, yes, it's not all predictive, but some of it is a little bit of predictive, especially in the beginning. So those are the two biggest things for you that I want you to work on. And then your third thing is I want more visor value. And some of that is going to come from angles, and some of that is going to come from the biggest thing on your visor value is going to be to stop visoring into one fight. Make sure you're visoring when fights are, similar. There are 6v6, 5v5, 3v4, that type of thing. When there's similar level of fights, not when it's a 6v3 in your favor. That's going to be your biggest thing with visor. The other parts of your visor should naturally get better if you're taking angles, and at least on that last visor, we did see that you waited until at least one cooldown was gone before you did it. You just weren't really thinking about the cover. But if you do the other thing first, your visor should naturally get better. So then just make sure you're not visoring heavily into fights that you've already hand over fist won. Okay. I hope that helps. If you guys have questions, once again, please do throw them up in the chat. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have, all that good stuff. Okay, let's catch up on chat. I think they took it all from the British, definitely not biased, by the way. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not there, and I don't know what the answer is because, history, we know what happens to history. If you didn't live through it, it's like, is that really what happened? It's sort of like whenever the news comes to something you know well, where it's like, wait, that's your take on what happened? I actually know this topic well. That is such a surface level take that gets so many facts wrong. Like, history is the same way as the news, where you're like, it looks okay until it gets to something that you know very well and are like, that is not what happened. And in Overwatch, we saw that with the Ellie situation, for example. If you guys were paying attention in that era, it was like that is not what happened. Why are we seeing a bunch of hit pieces about the Overwatch fandom, about how the Overwatch fandom is going like, oh no, a woman can't possibly be good enough to be in contenders, when actually the Overwatch fandom was going, who is this? Who is this? She came out of nowhere. She's not in the top 500. None of the coaches know her in tier 3, etc. That's just an example. Okay. What did I just join? If only the soldier had the Revolutionary War uniform skin on. Lost the game at skin select. Maybe. Pharaoh 2, alternate timeline. What should the target prioritization be like in fights? That's usually all that my brain thinks about. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. He needs to work on his choices of skin too. Does Soldier have the near lowest skill ceiling of DPS? Does Soldier have the near lowest skill ceiling of DPS? Let's think about our low skill ceiling DPS heroes. We've got Soldier. We've got Reaper. I mean, it's tough. Like, it's tough because what are we calling... How do we want to define our skill ceiling versus skill floor stuff? How heavily are we going to factor aim into our skill? Because if we're really thinking about, it's just, if we go aim is this infinite skill depth thing, and Widow, for example, if we say, hey, like I can point out Widow and go, Widow's not that complicated to use. She's really not. Like, there is stuff that a lot of people who go all aim, no brain mess up about her, but a lot of what Widow has to do, Soldier has to do too, except Soldier has a little more to think about with, okay, how am I going to use my healing station, etc., than perhaps Widow does. So, like, in that sense, Soldier is harder than Widow. But none of us would seriously think that because the aim requirements for value on Widow are higher than Soldier. So, like, but the ceiling, I mean, in theory, Soldier also gets benefits from his aim going up and up and up, just like Widow does. But as your aim gets past a certain threshold, you choose to use Widow because you're going to get rewarded for it better. So it's really hard to be like, if we're considering aim part of skill, it's really hard to be like, oh, you stop getting better at like, you see where I'm going there, where it's like that doesn't really work as a argument. So then it gets into, if we completely take aim out of the equation, Reaper's probably simpler. Sim has things to think about in terms of her TP placement that are really more complicated than his TP, than his Shadow Step stuff. Sim also has a secondary fire to be concerned about, as well as the ramp. Torb has plenty going on in his stuff. Junkrat. Probably a little more complicated when you really get into your trap placement, things like that. Though I suppose some similar stuff could be said about Widow Mines, but Junkrat also has multiple charges to think about on his mine, as well as how to bounce things. No, he has to think about bouncing things, but then we're back to aim. But like, it's not just aim; it's a separate skill related to aim on the bouncing things. I don't want to answer the question. Sorry. Okay. Um, I think he might be slightly more mechanically forgiving. Fair enough. Okay, I'll give you guys another minute for questions there, but I think we've probably covered what we needed to here. Would you make any changes based on high level? Would you make any changes to McCree based on high level play temporal? Yeah, I would. I think at this point McCree is probably the most overpowered DPS, and it didn't. I think that's probably true. You could definitely meta shift the game. Like, he's not so overpowered that other roles getting boosted or other roles seeing buffs or something new strategy wise getting figured out couldn't force him onto the bench. But I think it's hard to argue that he's not in a really good place right now. Like, he's finding himself in most brawl comps. He's finding himself frequently, though not always. He's finding himself, I don't know, a decent percentage of the time in double bubble comps. Like, he's even got arguments to be in some of the Zen Ball poke comps. Like, he fits in everything a little too well, even better than Tracer does right now, and that's probably a sign that, hey, it's time to take another look at this hero. Now, you could say, oh, but you just compared to Tracer, and that means that Tracer isn't this, and Tracer needs to be nerfed too, etc. Well, okay, maybe, but like, as long as heroes like Soldier, who we're reviewing, and Genji exist, yeah, if that's our baseline, McCree's way overpowered. If our baseline is going to be Tracer, Soldier's maybe a little overtuned right now. If our baseline is going to be Junkrat, yeah, McCree's a bit overpowered. Is our base point going to be some other hero role? Okay, yeah, there's a pretty good argument then for he's overpowered too. So yes, I would make changes to him. What change would I make? Ooh, you could go a couple different ways with him. You could add a little time back to his roll cooldown. You could shrink the size of Flashbang a little bit. You could take away that extra 25 health. I think looking at any of those would be appropriate. I would not try multiple of those at once, but I think looking at any of those could be appropriate. Yeah. And, for those of you that are going, no, but Dallas did the whole sim thing and they didn't even use McCree to win. I don't care. The existence of McCree is allowing that comp to work. The threat of swapping to McCree is what's allowing that comp to work, because otherwise you punish the sim brawl comp with just a lot of poke dive or poke stuff, and the sim brawl can't answer it. The fact that the sim brawl comp can make one change to McCree is what allows the sim comp without McCree to work. It's kind of like when Protect the McCree was a good comp back in the early Goats era. It wasn't that Protect the McCree was actually good. It was that I mean, it wasn't even so much that. I mean, we more get into like the goats type stuff where you had goats and Protect the McCree, and the Protect the McCree comp wasn't particularly amazing. Like, it didn't stand up to super heavy poke. Yeah, I'm going on a tangent with that. I'm not going to go there. It's closer to the sniper meta when you had double sniper as the meta right after Brig was released for the last stage or maybe the playoffs of that season's Owl, where Brig was enforcing from the shadows the double sniper meta, even though she wasn't actually picked, because the threat of picking her was enough to keep people from playing dive. Because if you go dive, you're swapping 4 to 6 heroes, and they can swap one of their high snipers, Hanzo or Widow to Brig, and you've got to then swap 4 heroes to answer their single swap, and then when you swap 4 heroes, they just swap the one back. It's very similar with the Kree thing. Okay. From the shadows. Yes. Okay, I think that's going to do it. I'm not seeing anything else there, so we'll call it there. Thanks, guys.